Hi, good afternoon, students. This is Mr. Young. So today's lesson, we're going to be working with 2.5 multiplying decimals. Our standard is 6th grade number sense A, and your objective is that by the end of this lesson, that you will be able to multiply decimals and solve problems involving multiplication of decimals. Now for our mathematical literacy, we have place values, products, factors, and multiplication. Let's go ahead and get started. So with 2.5 multiplying decimals, I've devised some simple steps for you guys to follow. The first thing we want to do is go ahead and remove the decimal points from your problem, and then just multiply like you would any whole numbers. And then once you're done with that, you would just simply put that decimal point back in your answer. All right, so like anything else, we want to also go over some vocabulary words. Okay, so like with everything else, we want to have good vocabulary and understanding the mathematical literacy. Now, the first thing we want to talk about is multiplication. We want to understand that the basic concept of multiplying is basically repeated addition. Now, the numbers that we multiply, we have a factor times another factor, and that's going to equal the product. Now, the product is just the fancy way of saying that is the answer of a multiplication problem. Okay, so the product is the answer to multiplication. But furthermore, with the factor, the first factor on the left side of the multiplication symbol, we call that the multiplier. And the multiplier is basically the number that you're multiplying by. The factor on the right side of the multiplication symbol is the multiplicand, and that is the number that gets multiplied. Okay, again, multiplication is basically repeated addition. Let's continue. Again, just remember that when we multiply factors, all factors are just numbers that we can multiply together to get a product. So just remember the simple steps. Remove the decimal points, multiply like you would any whole number, and then at the end, place a decimal point in your product. Here we go. All right, so our first problem, we have 7 and 91 hundredths times 72 hundredths. Now the first step we want to do is take this horizontal form and write our problem vertically. So 7 and 91 hundredths times basically 72 hundredths. Okay, now in this case we don't need to worry about aligning our decimal points. Unlike adding and subtracting decimals, you do have to align them, but in this case we don't have to align them. Now remember, the first step was to basically knock away the decimal points. So this will be actually written as 791 times 72. Okay, so the first step was to get rid of the decimal points, and then you would just basically multiply like you would any whole number. So 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, 2 times 9 is 18. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. Okay, cross that out, and then annex a 0, and then from there go ahead and multiply again. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 9 is 63. 7 times 7 is 49, plus 6, you would have 55. Now, what you have next is you have two partial products, and what we're going to have to do is add them together. 2 plus 0 is going to be 2. Okay, make sure that pen is working. 8 plus 7 is going to be 15. 5 plus 1 plus 3 is going to be 9. 5 plus 1 is 6. And then 5 plus nothing is going to be 5. Now, what you're going to do next is that you're going to go ahead and count the number of digits to the right side of the decimal points. So in this case, we have 1, 2 digits, 3, 4 digits. Now from here, like any whole number, the decimal point's always to the right side. So we're going to take that and move it over to the left 4 times. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's going to go right there. And that's all you have to do. Moving on. So in our next problem, we have the factor 1 and 9/10 times the factor 7 and 216 10,000ths. So again, what we want to do is sort of ignore the decimal points for now, and you're just going to go ahead and set it up. So we're going to have 700, or just go ahead and write the numbers in, times that number, factor times a factor. Let's go ahead and get a product. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and multiply 9 times 6. You're going to get 54. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 4 is 14, or sorry, plus 5 is 14. 9 times 2 is 18, plus 1 is 19. And then of course you have 7 times 9, and that's going to be 63, plus 1 is 64. Alright, cross these out. Okay, so you're going from your ones place, and now you're going to be multiplying by the tens place. When you do that, you have to annex a 0, and then begin. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 7 is 7. Now again, from here, you have 2 partial products. So what you're going to do is add them together. 4 plus 0 is going to be 4. 4 plus 6 is going to be 10. 9 plus 1 plus 1 is going to be 11. 4 plus 2 plus 1 is 7. And of course 7 plus 6 is going to be 13. So now from here, all you would have to do is count the number of digits to the right side of the decimal points. So in this case, in our first factor, we have 1 digit to the right of the decimal point. In the second factor, you have 1, 2, 3 digits to the right side of the decimal point. And then count them all up. 1, 2, 3, 4. So from here, you would go from the far right, like any whole number made into a decimal. You just go from the far right and go that many places to the left. So count 1, 2, 3, 4, and plug in your decimal point there. And that's all there is to it. Let's do 2 more problems. Alright, moving on with the third problem. So again, what you want to do for the first step is to ignore the decimal points and just multiply like you would any whole number. So in this case, we have, let's look at it as 48 times 7. So we'll do the ones place first. So 7 times 8, that is going to be 56. Leave your 6 ones here, carry your 5 tens. And then of course you're going to do 7 times 4, and that is going to be 28 plus 5, and you're going to be looking at 33. Okay. Now in this case, what you want to do is look at the decimal point. So 7 here is just a whole number, but look at the other factors, 4 and 8/10. Now 4 and 8/10 has 1 digit to the right side of that decimal point. So in that case, you go from the far right, move over 1 time. Plug in your decimal point there. So your final answer is going to be 33 and 6/10. And that's going to be your product, the answer to this multiplication problem. Alright, so let's move on to the next one. Now with our last problem, we have the factor 3 and 27/100 times a whole number 14. So the previous, the first 2 problems, we were working with multiplying decimals times decimals. With these 2 problems, we're going to be multiplying a decimal times a whole number. Okay, so as always, you're going to go from this horizontal form and make it into a vertical form. So we're just going to rewrite it as 3 and 27 hundredths times 14. Okay. So again, you don't have to have that decimal point there. You could just ignore it and just multiply 327 times 14. So again, 7 times 4 is going to be 28. Leave your 8 ones there, bring your 2 10s here. 4 times 2 is going to be 8, plus 2 is going to be 9 10. Leave your 0 ones, your 110, bring it across, your 110. Now 4 times 3 is going to be 12, plus 1, 13. Okay, and so we're going to go ahead and cross that out, cross this out, and cross that out. When you do that, you're going to have to annex a 0. Okay, annex a 0. And then from there, all you got to do is go ahead and multiply in your tens place. 4 ones, 1 10 is 14. So 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 3 is 3. And then from there, all you're going to do is add your two partial products. Okay, so from here, 8 plus 0 is going to be 8. 7 plus 0 is 7. 3 plus 2 is 5. 3 plus 1 is 4. Now all you're going to have to do from here is count. Look for the factor with decimal points, and then when you locate those and identify, you're going to look for the digits to the right side of the decimal point. So in this case, we have 2 digits to the right side of the decimal point, and then you're going to go from the far right and move your decimal point to the left 2 times. 1 2, and there you have it. So to factor 3 and 27 hundredths times the whole number 14, the product is going to be 45 and 78 hundredths. All right, so that's all you do. Now by the end of this lesson, we did a good job. So you should be able to do multiplying decimals by decimals, multiplying decimals by whole numbers, and also to evaluate expressions involving multiplication of decimals. Again, like always, if you're still having trouble or need extra help, please see me for tutoring from 2:30 to 3:30 daily, Monday through Friday. You're going to use the same Zoom link that we have in class. You can look in the calendar or you can look in the actual math course. Please attend, especially if you're having trouble. And that's what I'm here for. So again, thank you guys for watching my video. Please subscribe. I'm going to make that a new assignment for you guys. Go ahead and just subscribe. That way, when a new video gets uploaded, you'll know right away. Okay? Have a good day.